The night he realized his life had been quietly rearranging itself, Daniel was standing alone in a glass-walled office 40 floors above the city, holding a cold cup of coffee he had forgotten to drink. Outside, the skyline glowed with wealth and certainty, but inside his chest there was only exhaustion and a familiar ache of responsibility. He was a single father trying to survive a world that never slowed down, working for a woman whose power could buy entire streets, yet somehow missing the one thing that could change everything. He did not know it yet, but the silence around him was about to shatter, and the truth he had been too blind to see was moments away from crashing into his life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet love that grows in unexpected places, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Daniel had not planned on becoming a single dad. Life had made that decision for him when his wife passed away suddenly, leaving behind a small apartment filled with memories and a 3-year-old daughter who looked at him as if he were the entire world. From that moment on, Daniel learned how to function on very little sleep and a lot of determination. Every morning began before sunrise, packing lunches, tying tiny shoes, and reminding himself that giving up was not an option. He worked harder than anyone else because failure did not just belong to him anymore, it would belong to his child. When he landed a job at one of the most powerful companies in the city, he thought fate had finally offered him a lifeline. The CEO, Eleanor Cross, was a billionaire known for her sharp mind, icy professionalism, and impossible standards. She had built her empire from the ground up, and the media painted her as untouchable. Daniel never expected to be noticed by her, let alone chosen as if her executive assistant. To him, it was simply a job that paid enough to keep the lights on and maybe save a little for his daughter's future. From the very beginning, Eleanor noticed Daniel in ways he never noticed himself. She saw the way he stayed late without being asked, how he handled pressure without complaint, and how he spoke about his daughter with a quiet pride that softened something deep inside her. She had spent her life surrounded by people who wanted something from her, but Daniel wanted nothing except to do his job well and go home to his child. That sincerity unsettled her in the best possible way. Daniel, however, saw none of this. To him, Eleanor was simply his boss, powerful, distant, unreachable. When she asked him about his day, he assumed it was efficiency. When she adjusted his schedule so he could leave early for a school event, he thought it was corporate kindness. When she defended him in board meetings, he believed it was because he was useful. His mind never once entertained the possibility that a woman like her could look at a man like him and feel anything more than professional appreciation. As months turned into years, the space between them filled with moments that meant everything to Eleanor and nothing romantic to Daniel. She remembered his daughter's birthday and sent a gift that Daniel assumed came from the company. She noticed when he looked tired and quietly reduced his workload, convincing herself she was just being practical. She invited him to business dinners that felt less like meetings and more like shared silence, but he talked only about work and childcare logistics, unaware of the longing growing behind her calm expression. Eleanor's life, for all its wealth, was painfully empty. Her penthouse echoed at night, and the awards on her shelves felt heavier than comforting. She had sacrificed love for success so long ago that she convinced herself she no longer needed it. Then Daniel walked into her world with his worn shoes, gentle patience, and unwavering devotion to a child who depended on him completely. He reminded her of everything she had buried under ambition. Daniel's challenges only grew heavier. His daughter got sick often, childcare costs rose, and the guilt of never being fully present followed him everywhere. He felt like he was failing at everything except surviving. Some nights he fell asleep at the kitchen table, papers spread out, knowing he had to wake up in a few hours and do it all again. Eleanor noticed the weight on his shoulders and felt powerless in a way she had never experienced. Money could fix almost anything, but pride and fear were barriers she could not simply buy her way through. The tension reached its breaking point during a critical week when the company faced a massive deal. Daniel was overwhelmed, juggling hospital visits for his daughter and impossible deadlines. Eleanor watched him push himself past reason, refusing help, insisting everything was fine. For the first time, her carefully controlled composure cracked. She realized that all her subtle hints, all her quiet gestures, had failed to reach him. He was drowning, and she was standing there, saying everything except the truth. When it finally happened, it was not graceful or planned. It was raw and explosive and filled with everything Eleanor had been holding back. The words came out loud, unfiltered, and impossible to misunderstand, echoing through the office like thunder. In that moment, she stripped away her power, her wealth, and her armor, leaving only a woman exhausted from loving someone who could not see her. The shock on Daniel's face was immediate and devastating, not because he did not care, but because he had never imagined he was worthy of that kind of love. Daniel's world stopped. Every memory replayed itself differently, every moment reframed with painful clarity. The late nights, the kindness, the protection, the patience, he saw it all at once. And the realization hit harder than any rejection ever could. He had been so focused on surviving that he forgot to notice living. The idea that someone like Eleanor could love him felt terrifying, undeserved, and overwhelming. What followed was not an instant fairy tale. Daniel wrestled with doubt, fear, and guilt. He worried about power imbalance, about his daughter, about what people would say. Eleanor gave him space, not because she wanted distance, but because she respected his right to choose without pressure. For the first time, Daniel slowed down enough to listen to his own heart. He realized that the calm he felt around her was not just safety but belonging. Change did not arrive as fireworks but as quiet shifts. Eleanor showed up for his daughter's school event without cameras or headlines. Daniel began to accept help without feeling weak. They learned each other as equals, not boss and employee, but two people shaped by loss and resilience. Love, Daniel discovered, did not demand perfection. It offered partnership. Near the end of this journey, when life finally felt less like a constant emergency and more like a shared path, Daniel understood something profound. Love had been standing in front of him the entire time, patient enough to wait until he was ready to see it. Eleanor, for all her power, had chosen him not despite his struggles but because of them, and he chose her not for her wealth, but for her unwavering belief in him when he could barely believe in himself. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can arrive quietly and wait patiently, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below and tell us whether you believe love should wait or fight harder when the timing feels wrong. Your thoughts matter, and we read every single one. In the end, Daniel learned that missing hints did not make him foolish, it made him human. Eleanor learned that vulnerability was not weakness, it was courage. Together, they built something stronger than wealth or survival. They built a life rooted in understanding, patience, and the kind of love that does not shout often, but when it does, it changes everything forever.